Welcome back to LaGrange students, 5th grade and under. Glad you're able to join me tonight as we have another session for you guys. And if you're joining in for the first time, just some things we're working on. Our kids are learning the books of the Bible, and Old Testament and New Testament. If you have a video or want to get your parent to video you saying them, we will share that on one of our sessions. Would love that. We're also learning Bible basics, and so that's our goal, is to teach you more and more about the Bible, God's holy word. So I am excited that today we do have a treat at the end, so be sure after we finish our question and answer that you stay tuned for our special treat at the end. We do have a recording today. Last week we did a little review, and today we're going to do another session of what book. And what this session, you'll kind of see after we get started that we're kind of encouraging you to see kind of how that Old Testament has been put together. And so as we get started, you'll kind of see how it's been put together. So our first question, the first 5 books of the Bible are the books of the law. Can you recite those first 5 books for me? I know you can. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That's right. Those are the first 5 books. The Torah, the Pentateuch, are 2 other names for those that we commonly hear. Question 2. There are 12 books of history. They follow the books of the law. Can you name those? I bet you can. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Very good. So you've got your books of the law and your books of history now. Guess what comes next? The books of poetry and wisdom. There are 5. They're right after those books of history. Can you name those? Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon. Look there, guys. You're halfway through the books of the Old Testament. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit harder. After the books of poetry and wisdom come the books of prophecy. And they're divided into 2 groups. The major prophets, which are the larger books, and the minor prophets. So first, see if you can give me those first 5 books of prophecy, which would be our major prophets. The books of the major prophets. There's 5. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Very good. Very good. Okay, last stretch. You're on the home stretch. Only 12 more books. These are the minor prophets. These are the minor prophets. You ready? Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and last but not least, Malachi. There you have it. You just went through the Old Testament. Books of the law, books of history, books of poetry, and the books of prophecy. So very good on that. So after the books of the law, what book tells of the Israelite people entering into the land that God had promised them? After the books of the law. Do you remember who led them? Who led the Israelite people into the land that God had promised them? That book carries his name, and it is Joshua. If you said the book of Joshua, you're exactly right. Okay, next question. This book of history records the life of King David's great-grandmother. This is a new question. It's a small little book, but it gives us an important record of King David's great-grandmother, and this would be in direct line to Jesus. So what book is that? I'll give you a hint. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. That's exactly right. Joshua, Judges, Ruth is that book. Next question. Where can you read about the kings who ruled over the Israelite people? I'll give you a hint. There are 6 books that have lots of records about the kings that ruled over the Israelite people. They're in the books of history. Can you think of what 6 books? 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Reading those, you'll see the accounts of the different kings that ruled. Some were good and some were not so good. But that's where it's recorded in the Bible. Okay, next question. Solomon, the wisest man, wrote a book of poetry that gives us lots of wisdom. He shares his wisdom in this book. It's one of the books of poetry that King Solomon wrote. Proverbs, that's exactly right, Proverbs. Last question. Which prophet, and his book carries his name, was taken into captivity by Babylon, and we read in his book how God protected this young man and his friends throughout their time in Babylon, including rescuing this prophet from the lion's den. What book of prophecy would that be? If you said Daniel, that's exactly right. So, hope y'all did good with our what book tonight. And I do have a treat. If you will just stay tuned, we have Emma Mossberg, and she has learned her books of the New Testament. Go, Emma! So, we're going to close out our session with her recording, and thank you again for joining us tonight.
I'm going to be saying the books of the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation.